Hey guys, Ponce here, and today I just want to talk a little bit about new champion balance over the last couple of seasons. So more specifically, season 3 and 4. Now, the reason this topic sort of came to mind is because I was watching Sick Motion stream a couple of days ago. You probably heard me mention this guy before if you've watched any of my videos. He's got a channel over on twitch.tv/sickmotion. He's got a YouTube channel, so I'll link that in the description because, this guy really knows what he's talking about when it comes to League of Legends. So he was talking about how the last 3 champions were kind of absurd balance-wise. And so that got me thinking about sort of the general trend over the last few seasons. And it kind of got me thinking that Season 4 has actually been kind of bad in terms of champion balance for new champions. Season 3, comparatively, wasn't really all that bad at all, at least in my opinion. Anyway. I'm going to kind of go over that on a champion-by-champion basis. Actually, I'm going to sort of preface this by saying that I considered overall Season 3 probably, well, at least if I compare it to Season 2. I don't really remember Season 1. That's too old. But overall, Season 3 was really good balance-wise, at least from a champion perspective. It had some issues early on, and that had more so to do with items because they were overhauling so much at once. Was it Release, or when they first reworked Black Cleaver and released Blades of the Rune King and stuff like that. And they had some issues. But generally speaking, from a champion perspective, nothing was too bad that season. And so I'm going to start going over this. Now, you can kind of, split hairs in terms of what champion is from what season when you get into preseason stuff. But this is a kind of a rough category that I'm going to go with here. So we're going to start Season 3 with Nami. Now, Nami, yeah, she's decent. She's still used, but I wouldn't say she was game-breaking at any given time, really. That's a pretty straightforward. And there's Vi, very similar, kind of. She's good, but, Vi's not exactly game-breaking or insane, or I don't think at any point she was just kind of like a must-pick-or-ban kind of thing. Oh, at certain points of the game, she's always been considered, a decent pick. But now, here's the one problem, or the main problem with Season 3. The Thresh is from Season 3. Now, Thresh has always been considered extremely good. He's been a very high-tier pick. He's got an absurdly good kit. If you're going to argue that something is wrong with Season 4, you would probably center that argument around Thresh. The thing is, everything else mostly isn't too bad. We have Thresh. That's an issue. I'll give you that one. Next, we have Quinn. Quinn has just been Quinn. She's good, but she's not absurdly good, and it takes a very specific kind of person to play her, and she's not a very common pick. Zac was, again, in a Season 3 context, he was really good. They did nerf him, when his release, Zac was extremely good. He was a very, very common pick or ban kind of thing. But between the nerfs and the fact that he worked within a very specific, Season 3 meta context kind of thing, he's fallen out of favor. But Zac was really good in Season 3, so I'll give that in terms of to how Season 3 you could consider some stuff slightly out of balance. Zac was kind of not the most balanced thing ever at the time. Next we have Lissandra. Lissandra's Lissandra. She's just kind of always been there. Nothing too absurd about her. Same deal with Aatrox. He's not a bad champion, but he's not gonna break the game in terms of his horrible balance. Lucien. Now Lucien, this is, again, you can probably pair him with Thresh, oddly enough, given that they're sort of lore rival thing. Lucien was the other bad thing to come out of Season 3. It's kind of funny because people on release thought Lucien was bad. It was weird because, I played Lucien on the public test realm, and I'm like, this guy is really good as an AD carry, and then he's released and everyone says he sucks and no one plays him. And then Riot, for some reason, just buffs him. So that's bad on Riot's part. They should have just stuck with their guns and said, no, Lucian's fine. You guys have got to learn how to play him. But instead they buff him, and he gets, even worse. And, we all saw what happened with Lucien. He had to get nerfed eventually. And got that sort of pseudo-rework thing. Now, the thing is, he's an AD carry, and he wasn't so absurd that, he was game-breakingly bad. He was just always, sort of considered the best AD carry kind of thing when people actually figured out what to do with him sort of thing. But, and there was also a case of he transferred in Season 4, and then there was Season 4 balance changes and all that. But he was sort of a sore spot in terms of Season 3 balance. I'd say Thresh is worse, but Lucien was a thing. Now then there's Jinx. Jinx was the last champion of Season 3, and Jinx has always just been Jinx. She's good, but she's not broken. I don't think you'd get too many people that argue she's broken good. Okay, so now we move into what I'm going to start defining as Season 4, and yeah, we start with Yasuo. Yeah, there's Yasuo. That's how we're starting off season 4. This champion like single-handedly wrecked solo queue for a really long time. You just basically had to ban him because if Release Yasuo started getting kills and started going apeshit, he would single-handedly carry games. It was really annoying to deal with as someone who didn't play mid lane because I didn't have the option to shut down the enemy Yasuo if there was an enemy Yasuo, and if he got fed, that was just game over. It doesn't matter how hard I carry top lane. It's as a top lane player. If the other guy's carrying from mid lane, you just can't deal with Yasuo. And of course, he's had all those balance changes and whatnot since then. So, not a good way to start the season. Which is kind of funny actually because they were talking about reducing the efficacy of sort of the hyper carry kind of thing right at the beginning of that season, and then Yasuo shows up. So anyway, bad way to start season. Moving on. Next we have vel'koz. Now vel'koz is an interesting case. vel'koz is largely, or basically, for what I can tell, has never really been considered overpowered or like really good. He's actually starting now, just now, like it's the beginning of season 5, where he's starting to see a lot of play. And I think people are starting to sort of clue in to the fact that vel'koz is actually really good. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing nerfs for him sometime in the near future. Now, what's holding him back sort of is obviously the fact that he has got very low mobility, but he just kicks out absurd amounts of AoE damage, and he's got lots of CC. So, yeah, like I said, he doesn't have the mobility, which a lot of the new champions tend to have, but I think vel'koz is one of those kind of hidden OP sort of things where once, these more mobility champions start to get nerfed and whatnot, vel'koz is probably going to be in the crosshairs of some sort of nerf bat thing. Next, after that, we have Brom, and Brom, as stupid as it sounds, was probably one of the better candidates for balance from Season 4. Despite the fact that at his release, he was argued to be basically the best support in the game. I remember just people kind of talking about it. Now, he was new at the time, so people might just have been talking out of his ass, but I do recall Brom being really good. They did nerf him several times, if I recall correctly. And he's still a good champion. But, he's a support, so, he's not going to be game-breakingly, you're going to notice him destroying games because, again, he's a support. It's really, really hard to carry from the support position. But from a support context, Brom, at the very least, his release incarnation was really good, and I'd argue that he's still very good. But not game-destroyingly so. Here's the other weird thing. Now we have Gnar. Now, Gnar is an issue in the sense that I've sort of talked about him before. From a solo queue, your average slub playing him context, he's kind of bad, but in a very organized team, when someone really, really knows what they're doing with Gnar and people can play around Gnar, then he's like absurdly good. So from a balance perspective, not even from an overpowered, underpowered perspective, but sort of just a general balance perspective, how do you balance that kind of thing? Gnar is an issue, I think. So it's again, sort of a balance problem, but in another sense with Gnar. I don't know what to really say about him in terms of a Season 4 context, but yeah, it's not good, I don't think. Next, now we're getting into the thing I was talking about with the Sick Motion mentioning the last 3 champions. We have Aesir, Calista, and rek'sai. The next 2 champions, Aesir and Calista, those I think are cases of still, even to this day, they have absurd kits, even though they've been out for a little while now. People have still not fully realized their potential. Aesir is absurdly powerful, and what I find stupid is they actually buffed him at a certain point because I guess people after release couldn't quite get him, and I don't think he was played that much. I think we're starting to see the cusp of sort of Aesir craziness now that the LCS has started back up, and I've seen people, basically the professionals have gotten their hands on him, and he's just absurd because Aesir in the right scenarios, if he's set up in a certain way, just deals crazy amounts of, broken amounts of damage. And he's got decent-ish mobility, and he's sort of got CC utility in his ult kind of thing. But mainly, he's got stupid amounts of AoE damage if the fight is set up properly around him. It just requires a very weird kind of play style, and I think a lot of coordination. So probably Aesir nerfs in the near future. I wouldn't be surprised. Next we have Calista, again another weird champion. Her kit is very strange, and it's kind of hard to use for sort of, I guess, your average League of Legends player. But the thing is, she has absurd kiting. Like, her kit is just so good. Like, and she's got percent damage in there, and just so much mobility, and pretty good damage. Like, her damage is nothing to sneeze at. And on top of that, the practically unlimited E damage when you cause the rend, where you can, like, I don't know, deal like about 2,000 damage to jungle mobs and stuff. Like, there's no way you can outsmite her, basically. So I expect something to be toned down with Calista in the near future, especially as people start to get much better with her. I expect to see professional players doing some really scary things with Calista in the near future, so I'd watch out for that one. And then we have rek'sai. Now, rek'sai's been... You can argue rek'sai as a Season 5 champion. I'm going to include her as a Season 4 champion, just because what sort of happened at the end of Season 4 is it looks like they were cramming in a lot of champions they intended to be in Season 4. I think rek'sai came out like 20 days after Calista, which is really fast for recent champions. Normally there's a much bigger, period between champions. But yeah, I think rek'sai was supposed to be released sooner, but they kind of just like shoehorned her in right in that transition period between Season 4 and pre-Season 5. But yeah, release rek'sai. Just I would hesitate to say brokenly good, but she was really good. Like, she kicked out scary amounts of damage while having tons of mobility and just generally being really tanky. Excellent clear speed. You could see people hidden on the map, or just hidden on places on the map with her vision thing. And basically just as a really good kit, much like, as I said, the previous two champions. The difference with rek'sai is she got hit with the nerf bat quickly. I'm pretty sure, because unlike the previous two champions, she's fairly easy to play. She has some weird things about using her tunnel, but just how you end up kicking out the damage is very basic. You run into someone, you mash your keys more or less, and you just kick out the damage. So that's probably why rek'sai got nerfed a lot faster. And I don't know if she's balanced yet, but most certainly in her release state, I would say she was brokenly good, and she may still be too strong, but I don't know yet. We'll see how those nerfs pan out. So yeah, that's just kind of an overview. As I was saying, it's a weird trend that balance, in my opinion, got so bad, at least from a champion perspective, from Season 4. Because Season 3, I thought they did quite well. And this is kind of viewing at it from the fact that I thought Season 2 was atrocious. Like, Season 2 is what I call the dark ages of League of Legends balance. Because you had, let's see now. Well, this was, I think, around the middle of Season 2. I can't remember when it started, but there was Jace. Release Jace was absolutely absurd. I mean, he was just stupid. I have no idea how that made it into the game. Release Zyra was so strong, they had to nerf her very quickly and very hard. If I recall correctly, Release Diana was absurd. They nerfed the crap out of her, but I don't remember that too well. There was Release Rengar, who is probably one of the worst things to ever be introduced into League of Legends. I don't want to talk about that specifically, but just if you guys remember that, Release Rengar was stupid. Release Syndra I don't remember too well, but Syndra's still considered very good, so but that wasn't too weird. Then you had like Release Kha'Zix, who was also pretty absurd, just not as absurd as Release Rengar. And then Elise, if I recall correctly, she kind of sucked at Release, and then they buffed her. And I think Zed was also, he was one of those kind of transition champions, and they also had to be nerfed. And Zed, yeah, he's still good to this day. But I don't know why I got into Season 2 there. But as I was saying, Season 2 was really bad. Season 3 was pretty good. Like, it was remarkable how much better they got with balance. And then Season 4 seems like kind of backsliding. It wasn't as bad. Well, not obviously, but in my opinion, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as Season 2. But the fact that, yeah, we went Yasuo, vel'koz, Brom, Gnar, Azir, Calista, rek'sai. It's not a very good track record. We'll see how Season 5 does. I'm looking forward to better things. So, yeah, we'll see how things go. Thanks for watching, guys. And I don't mean to come across too harshly at Riot here. I mean, they're doing a relatively good job of balance overall, in my opinion. Like, League of Legends is relatively balanced in the grand scheme of things. Oops, that's an ad. It certainly isn't Release 2. I'd say the biggest offender probably was Yasuo from Season 4. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm going to stop rambling. Goodbye.